tram brought me to central control without any issues. Everything seems fine. It's rather odd, actually. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect when I arrived, but I didn't expect silence. Central tends to be swarming with people, hovering over terminals, talking through corridors, guards posted up at doorways. Instead, it's a ghost town. The good news is that the oxygen generator seems to be running. Otherwise, I would have suffocated as soon as I opened the tram doors. Hopefully most of MPO is in similar shape. Maybe I can check the status of each district's life support system somewhere in the central control. First things first, I better check on the reactor. Central control is where power is monitored and distributed through MPO. The reactor is in a secured area, but it's literally down the hall. I can easily access it should it need maintenance. I'll need to keep the reactor in working order, as the entire colony is dependent on the power supplied from this location to keep life support online. On top of that, the tram doesn't seem to be able to access any location that doesn't have power, so I'll have to keep that in mind. I should explore the area and search for supplies, but most importantly, I should look out for the power control console. It's gotta be around here somewhere. Murray Space Center's lost power, but if I can reconnect it, I might be able to find a way out of here, or better yet, off Mars. After a fairly smooth ride lasting about 40 minutes, I sling my bag over my shoulder and step off of the tram. Taking a quick look around the station to gain my bearings, I think, Central HQ is usually a beehive of activity. This isn't a headquarters. This is a ghost town. How the hell did all of Central get wiped out? Knowing that the reactor for the colony is straight down the hall, I cautiously make my way through the center of Central HQ, passing by a number of locked doors. And after reaching the door reading generator across its surface, I press the button and nothing. It's locked. Unable to stop myself, I blurt aloud, "Who leaves the most important door needed to keep this place running locked?" Taking a breath and calming down a bit, I then think, there's probably a keycard somewhere, right? Undeterred, I return back down the corridor to begin my search. Pressing the button on the first accessible door on my left, the door swooshes open to a large room with many consoles lined up on both walls and chairs scattered about. Each of these consoles is linked to its corresponding facility elsewhere in the colony and allows for remote use of those facilities without the need of traveling to the actual facility itself. Taking a glance at each console, it's pretty obvious that none of the linked facilities have power. Continuing through the room to the back corner, I notice that one of the consoles has some glowing lights on the monitor. Taking a glance at the controls and options on the monitor, I quickly discern that this is a repair pod and say to myself, I should be able to bring in broken weapons and let the machine fix them. And it looks like it will even work on Central's reactor parts too. From the look of things, I'm sure I'll be back here a lot. Moving on, I notice a door centered behind the inactive consoles and press the button. Proceeding through the door, I think, this must be the oxygen and temperature regulators. At the end of the hall sit two large transformers, no doubt routing the massive amount of power required for the systems to function. Opening the door nearest the transformers exposes my ears to the blistering sound of the O2 system's fans running at full bore, constantly circulating fresh oxygen into the thermal regulator in the next room. Ignoring the roaring of the machines, I notice a locker nearby. Upon opening it, I find an empty oxygen canister. I fix it onto the matching slot of my side bag's personal respirator and say to myself, once I can fill this, I should be able to last a few minutes in sections of the colony with no oxygen before I'll need to refill it again. I should definitely find a backup. After a quick inspection of the filter itself, I move on to the thermal regulator room. Opening this door has a similar effect to the last, blasting my ears with the sounds of moving air and machinery as the room's three large thermal regulators take the O2 produced from the oxygen filter and heat or cool it to a livable temperature. A locker next to the door holds an empty thermal canister, which I affix to the last remaining slot of my side bag, thinking these things work in nearly the same way as the O2 canisters. I won't have long before I'll have to refill it. A quick check of the regulator shows everything green, so I leave the room to continue my investigation of Central. Passing by the scattered chairs of the console room, I come across one last, very large console. There are 2 chute doors on the front, the left one marked material storage, and the right production output. Pressing a couple buttons on the panels, I say to myself, I'm guessing any materials the engineering facility needs will have to be in storage here, and whatever gets made will be dumped into the output chute. Handy, so I don't have to wait at the actual facility. On the opposite side of the room, I notice a scattering of footlockers and storage boxes. Inspecting them yields very little, aside from a few proton and stun grenades, along with a beacon I can use to place my own map markers. Pocketing them, I press the button on the next door. It swooshes open to reveal several manual access points to the facility's power grid and life support systems. Knowing that I have empty canisters and power packs, I click each one into place and recall, if I remember right, these things don't have infinite power without time to refill. I should be careful how much I use them at one time. After sufficiently filling everything, I open the hallway door and move across the main corridor into a fairly large, very empty room. Inside a smaller room nearby are several cabinets with several basic weapons. Raising my eyebrows at the find, I think, looks like no one even tried to use any of the weapons here. Was this outbreak that fast? Taking an early model shotgun to go along with the SMG, I leave what is left. Noticing a bed that is not a cell bunk, I say aloud, I can't rest yet, but man, that looks comfy. After searching the desks in the room, I reluctantly leave to search the westmost section of Central. Opening the door on the other side of the large room leads to another corridor. Seeing another door directly across the hall, I open it, which leads to the restrooms of the sector. Finding nothing of note, I head up the corridor to the next door, which reveals a room with much nicer white tile flooring, and I say to myself, the entrance to the infirmary. I should definitely take all the meds I can find from here. From what I've seen of this outbreak so far, I'm gonna need them. Pressing the button on the door leading to the doctor's personal quarters and stepping inside, my eyes are instantly drawn to a small briefcase in the corner of the room in hopes of finding a key card to access the reactor. Opening the case, I only find clothes and think, someone's attempt to pack before leaving? Farther into the room, I find a second briefcase, this one containing a keycard to the room that controls power to the entire colony. Finding nothing else of use, I move on and press the button on the infirmary door. It looks like there's nobody here, living or otherwise. Everyone seems to have evacuated, and whatever did this isn't around either. I guess this place is safe for now. I may as well set up my base camp here. This would be a good place to stage my escape. Fortunately for me, most of the important facilities for MPO are within walking distance of central control. I don't even need to power up those sections to reach them. I could probably reboot the 3D printer and other facilities at Nilsson Engineering, maybe even print out some supplies I need. Herbert Research, where I used to work, has research equipment I could use to feed instructions to the systems in Nilsson. I'll probably have to use the excavator at the mine to gather materials for the 3D printer. I should also check out the biosphere. I could probably use the agricultural system there to supply the biocombiner at Nilsson Engineering. Maybe even sustain myself. I should check out each location and see if I can figure out what's going on. At the very least, if I can get these facilities restarted, I can prepare myself for the worst. There are a few staircases leading to these areas somewhere around here. I'm sure I'll recognize them again once I see them. Inside, I greedily begin shoving anything even remotely related to medicine into my side bag and think, bandages, nano casting kits, Marsmari, doesn't matter. I'll sort through it later. To my surprise, I find a slightly worn standard colonist suit hanging on the clothing rack in the center of the left wall. Happy to get out of the prison garb, and finding nothing else of use, I quickly don the suit and leave the infirmary. Moving past a couple of empty vending machines, the door to my left says cafeteria on a sign near the door button. Pressing it, I am met with a plethora of chairs and tables, all disheveled and out of order, and think the state of Central is strange. It looks like everyone tried to leave in a hurry, but the tram was still here. Along the back walls are a mix of refrigerators, sinks, cabinets, and counters. I scrounge through the plethora of containers, finding only a bottle of Vita D and an unopened can of spaghetti. Placing them in my side bag, I say aloud, who knows how long it'll take me to make my way to Murray Space Center. I should probably stockpile a bit of extra food and drink to go along with the meds. Continuing down the corridor and opening the last door to the left leads to an enormous storage room with large metal shelves full of boxes and random materials. Taking a closer look through the boxes doesn't provide much, except for a Class C and Class A hacked keycard and a few materials. Heading across the corridor leads to a smaller empty room with a different locked door reading generator. Not having found the keycard, I turn around and decide it's time to use the power control room keycard instead, thinking the power control room is the only place I haven't checked yet. If it's not there, I'll have to see if I can blow the door open with a proton grenade or something. Sliding the keycard and stepping into the room, the hum of computers, servers, and terminals is particularly loud. This has got to be the power control console. As usual, there's no one here either. Should be able to control the flow of power for the colony from here, as well as monitor the generator's current status. The generator's not operating at full capacity, so I should be careful when connecting additional sectors to the power grid. I could overload the reactor if I draw too much power. If I do, it'll overheat and probably initiate an emergency shutdown sequence. That would be bad. I could end up stranded if I'm not careful. And what's worse, working oxygen filters and temperature regulators can't function without power. A blackout means certain death as far as I'm concerned. I can't just sit here though. I'll have to power up other locations to gather supplies and gather information if I want to get out of here. There's a lot of consoles around here. If I search them, I might be able to find some information. To the right of the door sits another briefcase, which I quickly check. My intuition incorrect. I nonetheless find two important keycards. One for Herbert Research, the other Nilsson Engineering. I'll now be able to unlock the access tunnels to each facility, which are surprisingly fast ways of travel between the core sections of Central. Checking the rest of the terminals, I finally find the generator keycard I've been scouring Central for since I got here. The terminal in the southwest corner of the room also has a call log from some Captain Roger.
Martin, keep this recording on you so you can remember what you need to do. You can do this. I know you couldn't find much at the Space Center, but don't lose hope. We don't have spacesuits, so I need you to avoid all the areas where the life support is down. The central cluster still seems to be okay, so I want you to take the train there, head over to the mine, and try to gather up some supplies. You You wouldn't believe the stuff they have in storage over there. You might be able to find some food in the break room if it hasn't been raided already. Grab whatever you can find, then head back here so we can get out before those... whatever those were get you. Please, for the love of God, don't get distracted. Do not run off to the plaza for choco pies or anything else. I'm counting on you, damn it. Get what you can from the mine, then head back here. Got it? No choco pies. That's in order. And don't forget that key card. It's the only way to open the Space Center security door and the only way back in. We need to try to keep more of those things out, and this is the only way. Don't lose it. This is Captain Roger, signing off.
Deciding to check on the generator before trying to route any power, I head back to the locked generator door and slide the keycard. The door swooshes open to a small room with 2 more locked doors to the left and right, along with a third unlocked door ahead. I unlock the left door, as it is the second door I found locked by the generator keycard. Approaching the generator door, the reactor can be heard thundering on the other side. I found my way into the reactor for the colony. This power plant is one of humanity's most remarkable achievements. It's an inertia drive. Inertia drives run almost endlessly via a core inertia engine. While it doesn't generate quite as much energy as fusion-based technology, what it produces is clean, reliable, and endless. Without it, MPO would have never been founded in the first place. The guy that designed this thing must have been inspired. I still hardly understand how it works. What I can understand, though, is that it's been damaged somehow. I can't tell by looking at it directly, but the generator's status readout indicates that it's losing capacity at a constant rate. I don't think I'll be able to fix this. It looks like the generator's reactor modules are burning out due to the damage. The generator must have at least one operational module installed to prevent a meltdown. I might be able to find some spare modules around here somewhere, but I should plan on taking a core down to Herbert Research. Once there, I can see if the research machines can create a schematic that I can use to produce more in Nielsen Engineering. If power draw exceeds the generator's capacity, the generator's sure to fail. I should be okay for a while, but I need to figure out how to offset this. If I don't, it won't be long before there's only enough power for central control. As I gingerly step through the reactor door, I take a look to my right at a cluster of machinery and can see a small keypad for calibrating the generator defenses. Currently having 0 weapons attached, only the greenish reactor modules can be seen nestled inside, acting as batteries for the generator. Turning around and craning my neck to look nearly straight upward, the sheer size and scale of this thing starts to come into perspective, and I think, I'm surprised this thing is still running with no engineers maintaining it. Some of these modules look like they aren't in good shape. After gawking at the size of the reactor for a second, I decide I better check all the remaining access tunnels leading into the generator room. While I was exploring the generator, I found hallways branching off in all directions. It seems containers of radioactive materials have been spilled. I shouldn't get any closer, or finding my way out of here will be the least of my problems. It's somewhat unsettling that all 3 hallways have had the same accident. Whatever the case, these hallways leave the generator vulnerable. There's no doors to close off should something come down this way. Oddly enough, all 3 tunnels are riddled with barrels leaking radioactive sludge. Slightly unsettled, I say aloud, "These tunnels almost look like they were blocked intentionally." Noticing a locker in the eastern tunnel, I rush in and drag the locker, which is surprisingly lighter than I expected, back to the door marked generator. Inside is a very old version of one of the reactor modules, and somehow in perfect condition. Placing it back into the locker for now, I think, once I see if Herbert Research is functioning, I should scan this into the machine so I can make more. Relieved that I still have a bit of time before the reactor shuts down, I'll make my way back to the power control console to route power to the other facilities. One of the terminals has the words "Power Console Update" flashing on the screen, and a warning that says,
Alright, Dr. Khan, we managed to figure this out. Using the data you got from Dr. Raskowitz, I came up with a user interface modification so we can calculate the rate of infection from a glance. It's really simplified, but it'll get the job done. First off, we've managed to tap into each district's bioscanners. Thankfully, these are subsystems that are directly powered by the generator, so we won't have to worry about keeping observed locations powered. Each district's infection level is calculated by density. The more there are, the higher the percentage. Once I figure out a better way to calculate population, I'll patch it in, but for now, I just set a high threshold. If a district is above 80%, I'd steer clear of it. I don't even want to think what 100% would look like. The next thing I've added to the UI is an infection rate. Dr. Raskowitz, of all people, was right all along. Low oxygen levels and cold temperatures speed up the rate at which this infection spreads. The infection rate readout will monitor temperature and oxygen levels and factor that into the estimated rate of growth. Once you get those prototype filters and regulators, the system is prepared to measure the suppression effect and factor it into those calculations. I don't get any of this, Dr. Khan. I mean, I punched in the data you gave me, but can you explain what's going on in a way I can friggin' understand? What's the correlation here? You know what? Screw it. I heard the evacuation announcement. It's just a matter of time before I'm allowed to get the hell out of here and forget about all of this. So I'd rather not know just how crappy this situation is. It'd be better to be oblivious if this situation is as bad as security claims it is.
Opening up the main console shows me a map of MPO and several statistics showing the state of the generator, as well as the O2, temperature, and rate of infection in each district, just as the update implied. After a quick assessment of what's on screen, I question. Routing power to more districts will stress the reactor modules more. So to cause less damage, I should probably only route power if I'm exploring or using that facility's machinery. I decided to focus my starting efforts on exploring Herbert Research and Nielsen Engineering, as those two facilities will allow me to upgrade gear and craft that upgraded gear. Routing power accordingly, I head up the corridor to the locked door that reads Herbert Research above the door, and slide the matching keycard. Damn, am I lucky. On top of avoiding the infected, I have also been fortunate enough to not die from suffocation or hypothermia. That may change quickly if I'm not prepared. The power console indicated that the oxygen filters and thermal regulators are offline for most of the colony, so I'll need to find some oxygen and thermal canisters if I'm going to access those areas safely. Once I find some, I can charge them using recharging stations. I should also try to fix the oxygen generators and thermal regulators whenever I can. Once I do, I'll be able to breathe or keep warm without the need of canisters. In a locker just inside, I find an extra of each type of canister. Grateful to have backups, I take the time to make sure each is filled. Before heading to research, I decide to take this time to organize a few lockers and containers into a central storage area. After some quick item sorting, placing defenses in the generator, and grabbing of provisions for my search of Herbert Research, I rest for a few hours. Upon waking, I grab a quick bite and head back to the stairwell, steeling my nerves for whatever monstrosities lie in wait.